Okay, we're here with Karen Beerbower at her home in Elma, Washington. And Karen, go ahead and give us your full name and when and where you were born.
My name is Karen Lynn Boling Beerbower, and I was born here in Elma at the hospital. I was the only one of my brothers or the family was born in the hospital here in Elma.
Yep, and the hospital that you were born at, was that
The
one
Elma,
on Anderson?
Old Elma Hospital.
Is that the one on Anderson
Yes,
Street?
it is.
Okay, which is now a suntan place.
in 1942, on my dad's birthday, the 30th of March.
Okay. Do you know why you were given the name Karen?
Well, you know, I didn't at first, but I've studied quite a few things, and it's from the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom and dad were very strong Christians, and I'm sure they had their purpose. And I wasn't named after anybody, just me. And when I was born, my little brother Jimmy was 3 years old, and he couldn't remember my name, Karen Lynn, so he called me Violin. And the reason he did that was because my grandpa played one, my grandpa Doss Boling. And Doss and Nellie Boling lived right here in Elma as well.
You want to give us a little mini tour of your home?
Sure.
Okay.
Where we're starting here comes in, well, it may be the back of the building, but it's my front door. So there's about, it's 30 by 30, and there's 2,300 square feet altogether in the 3 floors.
And what did this building used to be?
It was originally the theater, and I asked Randy about that the other day, the name of it. He gave it to me, but I'm not remembering it.
And Randy's your son?
Yes, Randy's my son, and on the front of the building, it says it was built in 1902.
So the building behind it that just got demolished was the old Graham Theater.
Yeah, and
that was built in 1927.
Yes,
so this was here first.
Okay. And there are things that I see now from my front door that I've never seen in the whole time we've owned the building.
Because
the other homes and all the other things. So
okay,
all I saw was a dark wall from the old theater.
Now you got more sunlight.
Yes, I did. And we start in through here. This was, of course, in the original part of owning the building was my mom and dad, the back of their grocery store. And of course, everything's been completely refinished from stop to finish. And it was started out with my mother's brother, Eddie Shahan. He built the upper part of the building in 1945. And where my mom and dad and my 2 brothers and I lived till, well, it was around 1959. So, and then I moved back in here about 30 years ago, which was only one of three places that I've lived in since Bob and I were married 67 years. Right here in Elma.
Were you married in one of the churches here?
We got married in the Lutheran church in Tacoma. My Aunt Agnes, my mother's sister, her and her husband went to the Lutheran church. He played the piano, and he wanted to do all sorts of things for our wedding. I have all sorts of pictures of those things.
Well, how old were you and Bob when you got married?
17. I was 17, Bob was 18.
Were you still in school?
Yes, we were. We had Scott our junior year, and our daughter Kim our senior year. And then I had Randy. I was only 20 when I had Randy, and he's 63 now, and he lives in Aberdeen. He's the farthest away of my kids. Everybody else lives right here in Elma. We've branched out, of course, but we still live there.
You want to continue with the tour?
Sure. When we started all of this, we worked together to plan what would be the most useful thing to do here in the apartment. And we had talked about a spiral staircasing here, but I decided against that because I figured if I went up and down all the time, it would become on overload. And there's actually 2 stairways to the 2nd floor. The one as we came in where I was standing, and this one. Bob and I got married in 1959, And when he was 19, Charlie Murphy that wasn't it either. It was like,
We interviewed Charlie Murphy.
yeah, but this was his brother that had the service station before
yeah.
Bob did. And Bob was 19 when we got the service station. And my dad had to sign for him because he wasn't old enough. And he was the youngest Chevron dealer they ever had. And he had that service station for 28 years, right across the street in Elma. And then we had the 4 children, and we lived on the Quoqualum, and we lived out there 9 years. And we had decided we needed to build a home where the kids could go to school. So we searched out everything to find out where they'd be able to walk and ride and get to school in a safe manner. And we picked 105 Lucky Lane. And Bob built a 3,200 square foot home. And we had talked to my dad about building it, and we were going to borrow $36,000 to build that house, and Bob was going to do it himself. And my dad thought we were nuts to borrow that kind of money to build a house. Clear back in 1964, I think it was, actually.
That was a lot of money back then.
It was a lot of money, but let me tell you what, was it a grand place. And everybody had a room that they shared with their brother and their sister. I always wanted a sister. And so we had 4 children. We had a boy first, Scott, and Kim was our second child. And then we had Randy and Christine. And we decided we wanted all 4 of the kids to have one of our names. And so we named Scott Robert Scott because Bob's name was Robert Jean. And we named Kim Kimberly Lynn because my name was Karen Lynn. And the Randy, we named the Jean after Bob, Randy Jean. And our daughter, Chris, was Karen Christine. So when we used all our names, we decided 4 children were enough. And we had a great future having the kids there in that area. And we had so many friends and that the kids could see daily in the Furlong area. There were the Lambs and all the families around it.
So Furlong, is that down there by the grade school?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know what area that. So do you want to continue with the tour?
Sure. The rest of this was the back of the grocery store. And there was a door here into the store. And of course, we took that out and closed it up because my dad had promised Jim Monje he would sell him the building. And my mother did not want to sell the house. So she made it possible for the 2 buildings to be divided. And the city was wondering how there was a building in Elma who had 2 different owners. Thank you, Joy Bowling. Yeah. And it's been really, really a great thing for us.
Yeah, this is quite amazing here.
Yeah. And when Scott started this, he was going to have this be his music room because he's really into music. He probably has 500 CDs. He listens to things a lot. So he had enclosed this in cork to where it could be completely quiet. And he had a door here, and this was going to be closed. But with us, with our family, we wanted this area open so we could utilize the whole thing. So that's kind of what we did. And everything that we did tended to work out really well for us. And of course, Bob and I doing it together, when you work together on things, a lot of times you're both very happy. So
tell me about your parents and grandparents.
Well, my grandparents were Nellie and Dawson Bowling and Martha and John Beck. My mother's name was Beck before she married Orville Bowling. And my grandma and grandpa Bowling lived on 102 West Young, right here in Elma. And I used to go to their house and visit a lot. And my grandma did sewing and played the music. And Dad had 2 sisters and a brother. Eldon was the youngest child, and Kenny Boling, and Janie Boling, and Marie Boling, and Orville Boling. And my mother had 2 sisters and a brother, Annie Fredericks and Agnes Jensen, and her brother was Jim Beck. And they all lived right here in Elma. And
were they active in the community? Or?
Oh, yeah. My dad, of course, had Bowling's Market from 1945, and he was mayor of Elma. And he also was in the Baptist church here with all of his family, his mother and dad. And he also was county commissioner. And he enjoyed being in the community, and he just came by it naturally. He really enjoyed doing things with the community. And when I married Bob Beerbower, his dad was Mayor McClary.
Mayor McClary?
So we kind of branched out into McClary after we got married.
And I remember when Bob Beerbower was the county commissioner too.
Yeah, Bobby was county commissioner from 1995 to 2008. Mm-hmm. And he enjoyed it. He didn't care if you were a D or an R. He wanted to do what was best mm-hmm. for the community and the county and our family.
So tell me a little bit about brothers and sisters.
I had 2 brothers. Jim was 3 years older than me, and my brother Johnny was 8 years older than me, and he graduated in 1952 from Elma. Jim graduated in 1957, and I graduated in 1960.
What happened with them?
My brother Jimmy lived right here in Elma, and he was married to Sandy Strong. And she's the only other person that's still alive that were in Bobby's and my wedding. Mm. So people are dwindling. That's okay. We've got wonderful memories.
Did you have a nickname growing up?
When I was little, my brother had a hard time with my name.
That's what it was. That's right. We talked about that.
He had a hard time with my name. He couldn't remember Karen Lynn, so he called me Violin because my grandpa played one. And my uncle Bud, who was married to Mom's sister Annie, called me Susie. And I really enjoyed all those different names, Karen Lynn, Susie, Charlie. And the Charlie came from Bob, because when we were married, I could tell him what he'd had for lunch and who he'd been with. And there was a detective at that time called Charlie Chan.
Yeah.
So he still calls me Charlie. So, I enjoyed keeping up with him.
So tell me about your friends growing up.
Oh my goodness. Here in the store, at first I was one of the only girls uptown. And so there were a lot of other business people, but none of them had little girls. And Julie Munn's mom and dad put in a grocery store just another block down. And she was here, and then Mildred Hancock moved in, and her dad had a bakery. And after he sold the bakery, he sold it to Ernie Henry, who had 3 boys. He had 3 boys. And I went to school with John. And most of the kids that I even started school with, Terry Thieralt, her dad had a barbershop here in Elma, and she and I were super good friends. And she has a daughter, and I'm still friends with her family. So it's kind of fun. Good friends are hard to find, so you keep them forever.
That's true.
Yeah.
What was the first trip you took?
Well, Mom and Dad liked to drive quite a bit. And actually, we didn't have a lot of time to go and be gone with John in high school here and graduating, and he was a drum major and everything. And so we did a lot of things with him at school. And my brother Jimmy graduated in 57. And Mother and Dad traveled with my children clear up to when they were, in their 80s, taking them places to Canada and all sorts of things. And they did things with Randy and Scott. And Dad ran the Summit Village. And my kids all worked there. and then Bob with the service station. My children worked there, and they got good educations, and Bobby was very easy to work with. He told you what he wanted, and you always got along with him as long as you did what you were supposed to.
What was Summit Village? What was that?
It was apartment complexes out by what is now the Summit Pacific, the hospital and things.
Oh, okay.
So it's out there on, I think it was Wakefield Street.
Okay.
Was where that was. And then, yeah, so.
What was your first car?
A Plymouth, a 1949 Plymouth gray. And Dad and I, of course, I was totally inexperienced with a car. I'd never really needed one. And he and I had gone to McClary one afternoon, and silly me, I had left the emergency brake on, and it heated up. Mm-hmm. We had to stop and get that taken care of.
So that was that a manual transmission?
Yeah.
Yeah. You had to learn how to drive a clutch.
Yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was your favorite subject in school when you were?
Wow, I liked it all.
Well, it sounds like to me you do a lot of sewing. Did you like the home ec? Did you?
Yeah, I did do the home ec, and I was trying to remember the lady's name. I can see her face, and Mrs. Prouty was in school when Bob and I were there, and I liked the drill team, and I was on the pep staff, and there was peppers and all sorts of things at school. And of course, I played every kind of instrument there was. Piano, accordion, clarinet. Yeah, I did all of them.
Which one was your favorite?
I liked them all, but I don't play anything anymore. I play my TV and some music.
Yeah, you listen to it, right?
Yeah.
What was your first job?
Actually, I didn't go to work until Chris was 6. And I went to work for Lawrence Lucky in his insurance office. And I also worked at Robinson and Barthen's. And then Betty and Ansel Long bought that, and I worked there. And in 1969, I went to work across the street at Thriftway.
Oh, I remember you then.
Yeah.
Was it called Thriftway back then?
Yes, it was a Thriftway. Ray Rice owned it, and John Snyder. And I don't remember what year it was, probably about 15 years later, when Ray Rice bought where the Thriftway and Everybody's is now.
So when did you end your job there?
I was 55 in 1989.
Yeah, I always look forward to when I'd go to cash out. I was looking for you.
Yeah. Now,
I wanted you to be my cash register.
It would have had to have been after 95, though, when I retired, because Bob was working for Jerry Gowan in a parts store after the service station. They closed the service station in 89. They wanted to build a mini mart, and the area we had for the station wasn't large enough to do that. And so when he went out of the station, he went to work for Jerry Gowan. And that was here in Elma. And then he worked at his shop in Aberdeen. And then in 1995, they were losing one of the commissioners, and Bobby decided to run for that to take his place. So he was a year for, what was his name? Pine, Mr. Pine, in 1995.
So this next question here says, what's your earliest memory?
Holy smokes. Well, I think pretty much being in my dad's grocery store. Charlie Oppelt and all the customers would come in and talk to him, and I got to stay there all day long, and I had a ball. I would tell him my car was shinier than his, or we would sit and visit, and they would come just to see me. And at that time, my mom and dad had told me later that my friend Linda Bosler, Linda Easton now, had come shopping with her mother in the store. And that is a personal friend of mine today.
What kind of music do you like?
Wow, what kind of music?
You could hear classic rock going
Well,
on
I'll
here.
tell you what, Bob and I went to see Elvis Presley.
Oh.
We liked all sorts of music. And we had a lot of friends who went different places with us. There was Tom Easton and Fred Comer and Mike Murphy, who was also county commissioner, and his dad was commissioner, and he had the service station that Bobby bought, and Bob worked for him delivering oil. And wow, Jim Bellin and the people that ran the post office and the grocery stores, everybody shopped over at Bob's. And he probably had 50 to 75 young men employees in those 28 years. And they still come and talk to me. And everybody loved working for Bobby. And it was the same thing for the kids at the station as it was for my children. You just needed to do what was in line for you to do, and everybody would be happy.
So Randy worked for you.
Oh, yeah. Randy and Scott both worked for us. And in fact, Randy and Scott helped Grandpa at the Summit Village, too. And our daughter Kim worked in the book department. And Chris, when she was about 10 years old, she wanted to get a horse. So one of the kids that lived in the area where we lived in at 105 Lucky Lane also was with her, and his name was Mike Lamb. And they got horses. And so we had to end up with 5 acres on 17th Street. And we did that from when she was 10 to when she was 18.
Oh, is that across across the railroad tracks?
Yeah, where Gary Logan lived.
Okay.
Right there.
So let me ask you, how'd you meet Bob? Was it in high school or grade school? Or?
No, he went to McClary, and I met him when he was probably 9 or 10. And Marvin Crane and Don Bassett and all the boys from McClary. And I had a lot of family up there. And Bob's mom and dad lived in McClary, and his dad was mayor of McClary. And the park there downtown is named Beerbower Park after Bob's dad because he was mayor and he did so many good things for the city.
I saw that it was Beerbower Park. I didn't know which Beerbower.
Ernie and Maddie Beerbower. So
how did you know you were in love?
I could just tell that darling little blonde-haired boy with all those curls. He reminded me of a movie star. He was the best thing I ever met.
A movie star in particular or in general?
Jeff Chandler, really, at that time when he was young.
Did you ever tell Bob that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. In fact, we watched a lot of his movies through life and things.
What was your first date?
Wow, my first date. Holy smokes.
With Bob.
Well, I'd have to say my freshman year. And and he had a lot of friends. And we did a lot of different things. We went to the river. We went to the fair. And there were girls from McClary and Bob that came over to Elma when they started high school.
Yeah.
And Diane Berry, and her name was Dotson, and Don Dotson and his family lived here in Elma, and I knew them really closely. And the thing about a small town is you can just kind of bubble all over the place, and it works out to be nice to have friends.
Yes. What's your secret for staying together with Bob's being married long?
Well, from the very beginning, Bobby and I tried to find out what each other wanted, and we worked at seeing how we could make that happen. And we've been married 67 years, and like I say, he was the most amazing person, and our kids and the boys always said, hey, you know, whatever it was about Dad, you could ask him and he knew how to do it. And of course, he didn't have the cell phone to look up on. It came by him naturally. So.
Yeah.
But he worked on the farms, different farms and things. And he bought himself a car, a 55 Chevy. And we had that for several years. And we had a kid kept pestering us to let him buy it. Oh, yeah. Well, we should have known better than that. He wrecked it one of the first weekends that he had.
Yeah, I hear that story so many times.
Pooner Clark wrecked our car.
Who was that?
Pooner Clark.
Okay.
From McClary. His dad had a grocery. It was a restaurant up there, Clark's. And speaking of cars, our son Scott bought one when he was 14 and worked at the service station. He and I were out riding, and he saw the car on the freeway, and he followed it in and talked to the man and told him that he really liked the car and he would like to buy it. And the man sold it to him. He still has it.
So what kind of car is that?
It's a 69 Camaro.
Oh, yeah.
And he built a garage in his house so the car would be in it. And he backed it out of there about a year ago, and he's going to finish it. So that's a project, because like I told him, every time he used to take it from one place to another, I would steer it and he would pull it. And I told him I'd like to ride in it before I was gone. So he needs to get it painted and finished.
Well, that brings us to the next question is what were your children like when they were little? And
amazing. They were all 4 under 5, and I lived on the Coquitlam. And of course, Scott was the oldest. I don't know if it was just the way that I talked with them, but generally I required the kids to do what I asked them on the first time, because with 4 of them, you'd repeat yourself all day long.
Yeah.
And they worked together, played together. And when they'd go outside in the morning, I would put them in red sweatshirts so I could see them. And of course, we had 5 acres and it was all fenced. And we had a dog named Nicky, and he would not let them anywhere near the sidewalk where you would go out of the house. So, and we lived out there, and Bob had the service station. And we lived there 9 years, and Bob built a barn. And we got a horse when Chris was 10, and that was the place we got the first horse. And then Bob became a volunteer fireman. And he and Boyd Morrow and all the guys in town would, when the fire would go off, they'd all get together and run take care of it. And he did that for 25 years.
And then Boyd was the owner of the variety store.
Yes, Elma Variety. And actually, there was a variety store on the other end now where that barbershop is. And my mother worked there with Eaton. And then Boyd bought the store and put it down on the other end.
Yeah, when I moved here in '87, the variety store was on the old Saginaw building, which is now Refined Man.
Right.
That's where it was to begin with.
Yes, it was.
Then it moved on the further corner in the old Menards building.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. I used to go there.
That was amazing. I had people come from California and all over the place, and they had to go to Boyd Morrow's shop before they would go home, because they said he had everything you could imagine.
It did.
And Carol and Bob and Boyd and I were really super good friends. We went to all the firemen's things, and there was never a dull moment. I mean, we belonged to the JCs and everything here in town. And of course, we had a lot of functions we went to at the school, because with 4 kids, by the time I was 37, my kids were in high school. And so I wouldn't do anything different. Starting young worked out really well for us.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what were the holidays like when you were young?
Oh, wow. We had a lot of good holidays with Grandma Boling and Dawson. And my Grandpa Dawson was a Fuller brush salesman. And he was right here in town. And Grandma Nellie made me clothes, and I'd go over there all the time. And of course, I never had to be babysat because Mom and Dad had the store. And so on my way to school, a lot of times, I would stop at different houses, and I had grandmas everywhere. Grandma Beulah Taylor and all these people, and when it was my birthday or anything for a holiday, I would get to go and visit them. And there was George and Gracie. I mean, I had people all over town because I'd seen them at the store.
So did you have a big Christmas holiday?
Yes, we did. And Mom and Dad always decorated the store. And of course, my brother Jimmy lived here in town. And we celebrated with Jim and Sandy and JD and Denise. JD was my brother's son, and he was born just a month and 2 days later than Scott. And then Denise was born October 3rd, and Kim was born September 8th. And so, I mean, with Bob's family in McClary, we would celebrate Christmas, and he had 2 sisters and a brother, and they all had children, and it was just like a full-time party.
So were you ever involved with the Slug Festival that
Oh,
you
yeah.
had?
Yes, we were, and including Randy. I mean, with me being at the grocery store, a lot of times I would have to work on functions.
Yeah.
But that was okay because I was here locally anyway. So, I mean, just 10 minutes from where I lived was where I worked for 30 years. And after I worked 30 years at the grocery store, our son Scott had bought 5 acres from Ben and Gracie Cabe. She was a teacher at the Satsop School, and he worked at a steel mill somewhere in Bremerton, and they grew gladiolas and calla lilies, which, speaking of holidays, were a wonderful flower to sell for all sorts of things. So it just all worked out to be where you could just roll from one thing to another.
What was some of the hobbies growing up? What did you do?
Well, actually, by the time you're only 17, I mean, pep staff, school, seeing Elvis Presley, having all those friends, going to the lake, doing swimming, getting together with everybody. And Bob's family would be together every single Sunday, and it was like a holiday every weekend. And we'd go up there and play cards with them to win 50 cents to buy gas. It was 28 cents a gallon. And we drove Bobby's folks. They had a red and black DeSoto. Everybody in town knew Bobby's car.
Mm-hmm. So you have hobbies now. You sew, you said?
Yes, I do. I made riding clothes for my daughter when she showed horses, and we showed nationally. So we were all over the place. We went to Arizona, California, and she won a lot of different things. And she was in 4-H and all those things. And there were league horse programs, and there was a place up in Olympia. I have to think about it. There was a restaurant and everything. It's where we showed up there. Chris could tell you in a second, but some of the things I have trouble with names.
What do you enjoy now?
I enjoy making picture books out of all the things we do. I still like to sew. And when the kids were little, Bob bought me a Husqvarna Viking sewing machine. And so that's probably been 60 years. And I can't imagine what he paid for it then, but it's an amazing machine today. And I absolutely love it. I wouldn't trade it for a brand new one. It has all sorts of dials and can make buttonholes and anything I want to do with it.
So what's your hopes for your family?
Well, my hopes for my family is to have the world become a little more peaceful, and the people on the road to become a little more concerned. No one has any respect for anyone out there. And I find that to be pretty discouraging because I respect them. I just would like the same thing back. And I hate them to shove me from place to place. You can't do fast enough anymore.
Right.
If the speed is 25, they're pushing you to do 35. I mean, and I'm just going to do the speed limit.
Well, according to your son, Randy, you keep yourself very busy every day.
Absolutely. From morning to night, I have a plan.
Yep.
And I have a book that I keep all year long. And I have a list of things that I do. And what I don't complete today, I put on my list for tomorrow.
He said what you can do in 4 things in one day, you'll try to do 50 instead.
That is true. And my daughter, Kim, worries that I might be wearing myself out. Like I told her, I do a set pace. Mm-hmm. And that's how I've kept active, is with a set pace.
Mm-hmm. So the final question is, what is the most important thing you've learned during your life?
Wow.
That's a hard question.
No,
don't think I could even
I
answer
think
that.
to be happy, and I think to also find satisfaction in what you've done. I wouldn't change a thing because I didn't lead anybody else's life. I led mine, and I had the most wonderful parents. And Bob's parents were amazing, and his brothers and sisters. They loved us dearly. In fact, the night of our wedding, Bob's brother Dale and his wife Mary had a house in Porter, and they gave it to us for the weekend for our honeymoon.
Oh, that's nice.
And we were there, and we had a great time. And to this very day, I have 3 nieces from Bob's sister Edith, Sherry, Evie, and Lisa. And I have a niece and a nephew from Dale's family, Jimmy and Debbie, and they all have children. And when I was trying to think, we did a gathering out of our family at the Grange, and to keep in touch with your family and see what you can do for them and what they can do for you, and reach out and know that my kids and their kids all get along. And the one thing that I wished I could do that I didn't do anymore because of the COVID was get together with the family for our party. We'd have 65, 75 people. And the women all made their own pies and dinners, and we had the young kids would come. Maybe they'd bring a donut from the store or something, but they came to eat Aunt Edith's pies. And oh, it was just the biggest blessing of all.
So you recently celebrated your 67th wedding anniversary.
January 10th, the last Saturday, was my husband and my 67-year anniversary.
And you celebrated it at where he's staying?
Yes, we celebrated that at the Tumwater Senior Living. And he had a very good day. I had a lot of people there that we had started high school with, and he may not have known them to call by name, but he remembered their faces. And he has Alzheimer's, and he told me one day, oh, it's been 4 years ago or so, he said, I worked hard all my life, and now this. And he was definitely recognizing that he wasn't able to remember everything that he had been doing all those years. So that's a hard thing. And the lady that has the home, it's a 10-bedroom house, and it has a dining room table that's 15, 16 feet long. And we can have company there anytime we want. We had Thanksgiving there this year and Christmas. And like the kids said, they can get together and have the holiday with their dad. So, and the nieces and nephews come. We celebrated his birthday last year, and he'll be 85 in March. And I'm trying to decide what kind of celebration we can do for that. So holidays are important.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
They really are.
They are.
Yeah.
And the more holidays you have, the more you realize who's not there anymore.
Absolutely. And it also keeps you busy planning it.
Oh, yeah.
I write that down on my planner.
So you don't use a computer that much, huh?
No, I don't. And the other thing that I have happen that is super good is my son Scott comes to dinner every night. And I told him, I said, don't ever give that up because I might quit eating. And I've had a weight problem, and I see an oncologist, and he wanted me to gain at least 10 pounds because he believes fighting cancer, you have to be healthy. And I've had cancer twice. So I tend to do just what he tells me to do.
Yeah, Well, thanks a lot for inviting us or letting us come in. I guess we asked you.
It's great. And when my brother passed away in 2017, he gave me a couple of houses to sell. And I brought his pictures and things. I didn't realize how much Johnny and I were alike until I went to his house and got everything. And there was no way I could get rid of things. And I don't have a problem collecting. Butterflies and things are part of my hobby.
Yeah, I see a lot of butterflies.
And I had 4 children, 8 grandchildren, and now I have 13 great grandchildren. And we can party every day.
That's a good place to end. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, it is good.